Fellow Toastmasters, distinguished guests, this is a speech that I just wrote down in the last 5 minutes, so it might be a little rough, so forgive me if it is. So the speech is called Winning Together. Now you might be wondering, what is this? What do you mean by winning together? This speech is about my negotiation style and how I go about negotiating in any circumstance I'm in. Now, in light of my negotiation style, I have this style for a particular reason. And the reason is that there's a prevailing view that many people categorize as the real negotiation style. And that negotiation style has to do with this idea that negotiation is a zero-sum game. There's a winner and there's a loser, and there's no in-between. There's no gray area. It's either you get what you want or you don't. And if you don't get what you want, then you're out of luck. And if you do get what you want, then you're the real winner. I believe that this view is not a really good way to negotiate for the very reason that it's a very destructive view. And being a historian, I can point to many different ways of how this is destructive. Well, we can see now that this negotiation style doesn't work. We see in the news a war that's going on in Israel. We see the Palestinians and the Jews and the Israelis fighting together. And both people have that particular view of negotiation. It's either I win or they lose. I'm not willing to compromise. I am not willing to cooperate. I am not willing to trust them. I want them out and I want to dominate them completely. What is going on in this particular war? Destruction, death. People are losing their lives. People are losing their homes. People are losing their hope for a future in Israel. And we can see there that that negotiation style does not work. We see it in history. As a history buff, I like to point to one fact that I think about quite often, and that was the destruction of the Roman Republic. We saw that in the Roman Republic, that the Senate fought tooth and nail over how to govern the Republic. They fought so much that Caesar seized the opportunity to take advantage of the destruction and dysfunction of the Senate by causing a civil war between the Senate and himself. He won that civil war. And in winning that civil war, he came back victorious. And he declared himself to be the dictator, initially for 10 years, in hopes to get the Senate not to realize that he was trying to destroy their power. But in doing so, he said that he was going to be dictator for life. And after that, they killed him. But it was too late. Because after Caesar, his cousin Octavius took over and destroyed the Roman Republic and made it the Roman Empire. So we see time and time again in history that this negotiation style is destructive and it leads nowhere. Therefore, what is my negotiation style? My negotiation style has 3 components. First component is cooperation. And many of the view that I just expounded would think that cooperation is absurd. Why should I cooperate with my opponent? Aren't I supposed to be the winner? Well, I say that cooperation is not a weakness, but it's a strength. It's a way in which we can understand that we have to work together in order for us to have a suitable way to live together, a suitable way to get what we want in the end, because we see that the other way doesn't work. Cooperation lets the other side know that we understand what the stakes are. We understand that we have to share this world together, and we have to make sure that the other side doesn't feel too left out to where they get angry enough to make destructive habits become a reality. Cooperation is not a weakness, it's a strength. And that's my first step of how to negotiate. The second step is compromise, an even weaker position in many people's minds. Now, compromise is seen, as I said, weak. When you compromise, you're coming from a very weak and very futile position. You couldn't get what you wanted, so you had to lower your expectations because you weren't strong enough to get it. You weren't masculine enough to do it. But I say that this is the wrong way to do it. I think that you were strong enough to understand that you have to be mature, that you yourself cannot run the world. The world does not revolve around you. We all share this world together, as I said. And compromise is simply this. as Mick Jagger famously said in his song, you can't always get what you want, but if you try sometime, you get what you need. And that's the key. You get what you need. You're not going to get everything you want in negotiation. It's impossible. Unless you can control that person, they're your slave, maybe. But most of the time, they aren't. So you're going to have to see the fundamental ideas, the fundamental non-negotiables that you have in a negotiation, and stick with those. But the ancillary things, the things that don't matter as much, you're going to have to give those away, because you understand that they also have fundamental non-negotiables themselves. And in understanding that, compromise is actually a strength, because you understand that both sides ought to have some way to win in order for there to be stability. And last is the foundation of it all. Last is integrity. Integrity is key. If one does not have good faith in the negotiation, there is no point in negotiating with that person. I have to trust that you're a person of your word and you will carry out what you say you're going to do. If you don't, then I'm not going to want to negotiate. And if I do negotiate, I myself will not operate in bad faith, and I will revert back to the zero-sum game and try to dominate you and make sure that I win and you lose. And we all know what that happens. We all know that it leads to destructive end. Therefore, character is a very important component to negotiations. Having integrity, having honor, having trust in a person is what brings you to the table and allows you to go and negotiate and get the necessary things that you want in that particular negotiation. So I end with this in a very short speech, that the old way that I just expounded is a very destructive way. And this way is not a way that we all want to do in negotiating in any circumstance. I believe the way that I expounded is a very good and sensible way. Sure, you're probably not going to get everything you wanted, and maybe that is very disappointing. But you also think about the other person you're negotiating with as well. They're not going to get what they want. And if we're going to work together and have a negotiation that works, we're going to have to recognize each other's strengths and weaknesses. We're going to have to recognize that we want the other person to win, and we want ourselves to win. And in doing that, we can win together. Thank you very much.